Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another great episode of the Apex. It's going to be a little weird today. We're starting this new trend called video. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. We decided to get in with the 21st century and do some video podcasts. My name is Paul, this ugly face you see here. Now you can put it to the voice. Once again, I'm joined by Josh. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing great, Paul. Definitely getting with the program on getting on video. Better late than never, I guess.
Absolutely. And then right there, Meredith. Meredith, how are you?
Fantastic today. Very, very happy to be on. Happy to be videoing because I can assure you it's going to make running the social media stuff a lot easier, having video clips to put, not just audio.
Yes, absolutely. Sure. So I hope everybody's having a great Monday. And I know the weekend was a little tough with some of the racing stuff, depending on who you root for. But guys, what did you guys think about the F1 race in Spain, being that this is the last time they'll race in Spain, right? They're moving over to Madrid. At Barcelona.
Nothing official yet, but it's rumored that this is the last race at Barcelona because next year they're introducing the race in Madrid.
Correct. What did you guys think about it?
I thought it was a good race. All in all, I think there was some decent strategy choices. We'll get into some of the more interesting ones, we'll say the least. I think you could have totally skipped out on the first hour of the race and gotten the complete idea of it after that. So if you did happen to join the broadcast late, you did not miss much, I promise you.
Meredith?
I thought it was an awesome last 10 laps. It's funny because looking back, I was telling Josh, I make notes. I have my notepad and I make notes and take notes during the race. And I'm shocked by how many notes I have that are not up before lap 55 because I'm looking back at them, I'm like, why did I think that I needed to write down that on lap 24, Kimi Antonelli overtook Gasly? There's nothing of substance, but yet somehow I had 2 full pages of notes. And then it got down to the end, and I was so excited that I just quit writing my notes. And the rest of it is just scribble and then pissed in all caps. Max is pissed, So I thought same. I thought it was a really good race. I thought lap 1 was really exciting. And then just fast forward to 55 and then finish it out from there.
I think that seems to be the theme lately, at least the last couple of years. The first 2 to 3 laps is really interesting. Then it's just this big lull. And then the last 10, you can get some really spicy stuff. And yeah, no worries. I took mine in some high quality paper towels. And it was a fun race. So you guys just want to get into it?
Yeah, we just got to.
Okay, you know what? The race was great. It's nothing eventful at the start. Let's get into the Max stuff.
Ooh, right to it, huh?
I mean,
I was
okay.
I thought we would maybe ease into it.
No,
just talking about Oscar's really great start.
Oscar, okay, you know what? Oscar had a great start. Lando had a messed up start, as it always is. We move on. Let's get on to lap 60. What do we think about that?
I've got notes as well, not to be left out. I have notes, and most of these are also from lap 60 to 66. So I will just kind of give the quick recap. Safety car restart. We'll get into some of the strategy choices a little bit later, but Max is on hards, which is insanity that he is on hard tires. So on the C1s, and no one is using the hard tires at this point. They're not racy. But yeah, here we go. We're going to put Max on hards. Everyone around is on softs. Let's try this out. So he gets a little spicy going into the pit straight. Great save. I can't believe he didn't spin the car. Most other guys on the grid probably would have spun it. So an incredible save by Max to even keep it going. Charles gets right up alongside. They're both vying for a slipstream, kind of get bumping and rubbing. No problem there. Little rubbins racing. Look, no issues. George sends it into the first corner. Probably deserved a penalty, let's be honest. Probably deserved a little bit of penalty. Seemed like the car was not in control. So we've got now Max, who in the last 30 seconds is already pissed that his team's put him on the hard tires. He's pissed because Charles has passed him and bumped him. And then he's pissed again because George has now dove in on him, quite a large lunge, and pushed him into the escape road. So Max is not having a very good safety car restart from every aspect that you could possibly think of. So then, for some reason, which I still do not know, his race engineer asks him to give the position back to George. Well, imagine if you're already angry and you're already Max Verstappen, how that's going to go over. So he didn't take that news very kindly. Somehow decides, you know what, okay, fine, I'll let George by. And then 3 seconds into allowing the overtake, decided, you know what, never mind, I'm Max Verstappen, what am I doing? And then immediately just decides not to steer into a corner and hits George, and chaos ensues. A media superstorm and a PR disaster for Red Bull, which I'm sure they're accustomed to at this point. But
their like whole life story is a PR nightmare.
Yeah, it's just Red Bull. If you were the PR person, or one of several, I'm sure, for Red Bull, you have got to be making a ridiculous amount of money, because this is just consistent from drivers, from everything, from the pit wall. It does not matter. So that's basically the short story. My opinions on it, as probably you can tell, I think probably George deserved a penalty for the move into the first corner. The lunge, Max's move on George after the call from the pit wall is ridiculous. It's unacceptable. I cannot believe that he only got a 10-second penalty out of that. I think that in years past he probably would have gotten a drive-through or a stop-and-go penalty, something along those lines. I thought it was way too lenient. I'm glad they assessed him the penalty points onto his super license after the fact, but I don't think that really makes up for maybe how lax that penalty could have been. So I don't know. What do you guys think on that?
Meredith?
I agree with you, Josh, in the fact that I don't think it just started at the altercation with George and him. I think Max saw red the second he felt those tires. And I know that we were like texting about it, like while the race is happening, like what the hell is he doing on hards? Everybody else is going out on used softs, and he came on that radio and was like, what are these tires? What are these tires? And immediately I'm like, that's where I started making my notes. Pissed, he's pissed. But it was the only option. And that's what his team told him. They said, this is the only option. These are the hards. This is the only option. And I want to know, like, was that true? Did he not have any other tires? Like, literally, were they just all gone from the weekend? Because I think like that's wild to me. But I know that was also his fourth stop. Like, it was his fourth.
Yes.
And so
yeah.
kind of like, yeah, you didn't have any other options. But like at that point, like, why wouldn't the call be like, hey, Max, do you want to try and stay out and try and make the tires you're on last? Or do you want to come in? Your only option is hard. So to me, it was a communication breakdown that should have happened like right before then. As soon as that accident happened with Kimmy, hey, do you want to make those tires left? Your only other option is these new hards. I bet Max would have made the call to stay out, and I think we would have been in a very different position. But instead, they gave the order for him to come in. He felt it immediately and knew, and I think at that moment he knew he was not getting a podium. And then I think he saw red. And then I agree with you. I think George definitely needs to take some accountability for the accident that happened. But I think George is also very good at playing the victim. And I think especially in the media after, to say things like, you have young fans watching, and to like make it about that. Okay, Karen, shush. Like that's not what this is about. Own your part and you play it. Like, most of the other drivers can own like, hey, this was a racing incident and I'm really sorry for how it played out. But he didn't take any accountability. He made it all about Max and how Max shouldn't be setting an example like that for these younger fans. I thought it was a little ridiculous what he was doing in the media, but I also thought how Max handled it in the media was inappropriate. The way that he spoke to those reporters, like, I think if he would have had an ounce of like what Lewis Hamilton had, where Lewis didn't want to be doing interviews either, but he said, I know this is not your fault. I just had a really bad day and there's just nothing more I have to say.
But I think that just comes with maturity.
Yeah.
I think Lewis being older, we've seen this from Max, just that level of immaturity when things don't go his way. He just throws a big hissy fit, and it's just, we always chalk it up as Max being Max, but at some point we have to hold his feet to the fire, and this is just unacceptable. We can't use this. And let me get back to the point you said earlier. I just saw it. Leclerc does not bump Max at all. It is Max that drives into Leclerc, because I'm watching it right now on my phone, and you could tell that Leclerc his steering wheel does not move left at all. It is Max's car that bumps into Charles. So you're pissed already because you think he hit you. He didn't. You just have no control because of those hard tires, and you have no traction.
100%.
So,
and they even replayed it multiple times, and all the commentators were like, sorry, no, this is clearly Max. Like, even Nico Rosberg was like, no, I'm really sorry, Max. Like, this is you. That wasn't Charles. That was you.
yeah, right. No, and I agree. And I definitely think George should have gotten into some trouble for that move. But ultimately, Max turned his vehicle into a weapon. He deliberately made a mistake. I don't care if you're seeing red or not. You don't deliberately, at those speeds, turn your vehicle into a weapon to either hurt him or just get him off the track. You just don't do that. That was completely unacceptable. And the 10-second penalty that he got, completely lenient. That is crap. Should have never happened. He should have either gotten a drive-through penalty or completely been disqualified. No. But on the other hand, Max screwed himself. We knew he wasn't going to be world champion today, and he just he did something he shouldn't have done. When now he's 10th, got 1 point. That gap between him and Oscar is just growing. It was just a terrible weekend for him overall.
Can I bring this point up? We know I'm a Lando lover. We know I'm biased. We know Max is not my favorite. But can we talk about the difference in the media? Like, I know people are joking like, oh, Mad Max. But, like, I feel like Max does stuff like this and he gets the pass of, like, that's just Max being Max. He's going to drive with his elbows out, blah, 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 blah. If Lando did what Max did during this race, the media would be annihilating him. And I feel like the media response is just a little bit different with Max because we know Max drives a little bit dirty. He drives a little bit aggressive. But Josh, to your point, like he gave George the illusion of I'm going to give that position back. You go around and then not even 3 seconds later went, And I think that if Lando had done what Max had done, we would not be hearing the end of it on media. And I feel like, yeah, we're like 24 hours out of the race, but it was like, okay, Max shouldn't have done that. Max, that was dangerous. Max got his 10-second penalty. He got his 3 penalty points. But then I feel like it's already done. People are like, okay, let's move on to Canada. Whereas if that was Lando, I think everybody in the media would be annihilating him and talking about this is what we talk about when we say Lando's not a strong mental driver and stuff like that. So I think there's a little bit of a differential treatment that Max gets in the media when he does things like this that wouldn't be given to Lando.
So I think from my perspective on where Formula One wants to take Max, right? You've got the best driver in the sport, a 3-time champion now, and the sport wants him to be the role model, to be the centerpiece of the sport, right? We want to showcase our best driver, like, oh, look how incredible Max Verstappen is, right? And I feel like that we give him more leniency because we want him to be maybe something he doesn't want to be himself. I don't know if he necessarily wants to be the centerpiece. He doesn't act like it in, example, recently they did the drivers showing, they showed the teams and the drivers and some other people in Formula One, the movie that's coming out, right? They got an early showing of the movie. Max didn't show up. It was not obligated for them to be there. They were not mandatory to be there, but he didn't show up. He decided to do sim racing and was live streaming during this event. Max doesn't want to be the centerpiece of Formula One. Max wants to be Max and race and hang out at his house and play sim racing and do what Max does and now be a father. Like, obviously he's got a lot more things going on. Yeah. He doesn't necessarily want to be that centerpiece. And I think that when, whether it be Formula One or Sky Sports or whoever it is wants to drive the narrative of, this is Max, this is the best driver, this is who our role model should be, they don't really take into consideration that this is not necessarily Max's personality. Max is very much Michael Schumacher-esque as far as, like, he drives a little dirty, he just wants to win, he's going to do his own thing, he's not necessarily your media guy. So I think we're maybe trying to put Max in a box that he doesn't want to be in, and if he doesn't want to be in it, it's not going to turn out well. He's just going to do what he wants to do, and then it sends us into a frenzy of like, wow, can you not believe what Max said in this interview? Yes, I've seen Max say these things in interviews several times. You think it's going to be any different this time? So I get it that he was a little rude to that reporter. And I even said that to you guys and said that, no, I thought what Max was kind of being an ass about it. And he, maybe he was being rude, and it's not inexcusable, right? He's frustrated by the circumstances that were not the reporter's fault. And of course, everyone's going to ask him the question. Yeah. Why did you do that? Because it's the most blatant thing that happened all weekend. So, of course, that question has to be asked. Any reporter would get fired for not asking Max that question. So I just wonder how long we're going to go with this. Well, honestly, I know the answer to this question. How long are we going to make Max the guy? We're going to put him in the center. Well, the answer is until someone else wins the Drivers' Championship and we can put someone else in the spotlight, I think.
I just think he'll always be in the spotlight until he retires. But
yeah, he's the best driver of our generation. There's no question.
Yeah, I agree. And Max is always Max, but there has to come a level of professionalism that has to come with it. And I understand in the heat of the moment, I mean, sure, I've said some pretty messed up things in the heat of the moment too, but we have to expect a little more from these people that are put in such high pedestals.
I agree. Well, especially like with the fact that he is a new dad now, right? Like you would think that that would come into a play, in a little bit of a different, you'd think that maybe that would have like changed him and like how he carries himself and the legacy he's going to leave.
But look at his role model. Look at his dad. I don't mean to cut you off. Look at his dad. His dad's the same thing. Yeah. His dad's just that dick. So it's you learn that from a young age. So I mean, it is
I
what it
actually
is.
liked that he didn't go to the F1 thing. Like there was his quote about it was he said, "That's on a Wednesday night when I'm at home," because it was when they were in Monaco, and he said, "That's a Wednesday night in my hometown with my family, and I have a new baby. So to me, it was just another Wednesday night. I didn't need to go see the movie. I needed to be with my family." And I was like, okay, I felt like that was actually a really good response. But I do think that maybe he's being asked to be the face of something that you're right, maybe he doesn't necessarily want. And like, everybody is a human. We've all got the right to have the emotions and to feel the way that we do. But like, what you did was dangerous. What you did was intentional and calculated. You don't need to be rude to somebody else because you did that. Like,
Right.
that was just my thought. Like, I don't want Max to be anybody but authentically himself. But I do think that whether he wants that or not, he needs to understand the position he's in and act as a professional.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So anything else about yesterday's race that sticks out before I bring up the point I want to bring up next?
No, I mean, there's plenty of stuff.
Yeah.
We go down the list.
You go down the list. Let's see it. Let's go to what yours is.
Ferrari, what is going
Hey, that
on?
was mine.
Hey, you see what I'm wearing?
Dude.
I
I'm
had
wearing my
an
Lewis
epiphany.
shirt.
I had an epiphany today. Yes, Ferrari is not living up to expectations that we kind of all thought going into the season. However, Ferrari is still number 2 in the constructors and not too terribly far off. So, at the
Half the points.
it doesn't
Less
matter.
than half. I
Who
say
else-
that as a Ferrari fan. Let me be clear.
The race pace was much better, much stronger this weekend. The qualifying pace from Lewis, which had been his self-admitted weak point, obviously he qualified very well. Now it's kind of come out that maybe Lewis had floor damage throughout the entire race, and that really hindered him from. Yes, that's what
I
I've
hadn't
seen
seen
today.
anything about
Yeah,
that.
I saw an interview
Apparently,
this morning.
yeah.
Fred came out and said towards the last pit stop, they had some floor damage.
Yeah, so that kind of hindered his ability to fight, especially for positions after the safety car restart, which, everyone's going to say, oh, look at Hulkenberg passing Lewis Hamilton, which, whatever.
I said
But
that. That was
I
me.
know.
I have the text.
Hulkenberg, my driver of the day. That's the whole other thing.
Oh,
Fantastic.
nobody could have guessed
Sauber,
that.
No, Sauber had great upgrades. They're going to be strong. They're
Yeah,
eighth. They're
15 to
eighth now.
5, that like it could
Yeah.
be my least favorite driver on the grid, going from P15 to P5 in a
it doesn't matter.
Sauber. You deserve an
Doesn't
award.
matter. Yeah, in that car with what he's had to deal with from that team, and they're in eighth now. Alpine is dead last. So whatever. Sauber has done something correct over there. But I'm still going to ride with Ferrari. They have something there. They just need to get all the pieces together. And I think one of those pieces that needs to change is Lewis has got to get a new race engineer, or something has to happen with that relationship. That relationship between the two of them is hindering Lewis's ability to drive the car, and it's hindering the team's ability to manage his race and his strategy. Several times Lewis was asked to make adjustments or things that were either already done or miscommunicated one way or the other. It just is sloppy, and it's been sloppy for several weekends. Monaco was a great example of how bad that really hurt Lewis and his weekend outcome. So I think that's got to change. I think Ferrari's not too far off the pace here.
It's just, to me, that post-race interview that he did, those several ones that he did, it's just heartbreaking. And those few words right at the end is incredibly telling to what's going on. When he says, probably my fault, it goes to show that Ferrari refuses to look within, and goes to show that they're just blaming Lewis for everything. And granted, there has to be blame on both sides, but at some point you need to look within and realize that maybe your car is just not quite there. And Charles is doing better because he's been on the team for years. He knows that team. He knows that car. This guy is completely different. He's been used to one car for a decade. Now it's completely different. You can't just blame it on him. Something's got to give. And I said this on the group chat. Both of those, the engineer and Lewis, have to spend a whole week together this week going into Canada, and they really need to figure this out because, I mean, it's tough. It breaks your heart, especially being a Lewis fan and seeing the heights that he came from to just defeat it, man. It breaks your heart.
It really does. I think the most heartbreaking clip for me was not even in the interview. I'm not sure if y'all saw the clip of him when he pulled his car up and was getting out of his car, and he lifts his little visor thing up and he's just rubbing his eye.
He's crying.
And then he takes this. I was like, I am a 35-year-old woman crying over Lewis crying because like watching that happen to such a strong, resilient, talented driver and just knowing that it's killing him. I mean, I still go back to like being completely shocked that Bono didn't go with him. You know, like I legitimately thought that that was a real possibility. And so it's like this idea of, I think there are multiple dynamics. It's him not being familiar with the car. This is a new car. This is a new team. This is a new engineer. And that engineer driver relationship is so, so critical. And, you know, he's having to maybe grieve the, you know, leaving Mercedes, leaving Bono. Like there's so much new. There's so much that he has to like set in the past. But then like to not be achieving results, like, you know, I got annoyingly optimistic and hopeful when he won that sprint race. Like I was like, he's going to get dialed in. We're about to see the tides turn, and to watch how this has fallen for him, it's really, really hard to watch because like eventually he's going to get to a point where he's going to go, how much of this do I need? Like how much, like, do I go through the rest of this season? Do I go through another year of this? Like how much more time does he, as a very, very seasoned, very strong driver, how much more time does he go through where he goes, I actually don't need this in my life. Like I have an entire career after this. I've got a fashion brand. I've got, you know, so many other projects I'm involved in. My question in the back of my head is, if this doesn't go much better the rest of this season, how long do we see Lewis staying in Formula One if things don't turn around at Ferrari?
I mean, we've asked that same question for the last, 2-3 years, even going back to Mercedes and how awful that car has been. This man has just been defeated time and time again, and how much more does he have left? Because honestly, 7-time world champion, 8, I want to say 8.
8.
8.
What else does he have to prove? There's nothing for him to prove. He's going to go down as one of the greatest of all time. But it just, you hate to see him possibly go out like this. And I really hope they get it together. The one question I have is, this engineer that Lewis has, was it the same one that Carlos had when he was with Ferrari? I don't remember there being that many issues with Carlos last year or the previous. Do you?
I sure don't.
No, and maybe it's just we've got Lewis under a microscope, and you know, Carlos had a great year last year, was scoring consistent points, had race wins. You know, maybe we just weren't worried about it. Maybe it just wasn't something that was noted. But obviously something's going on now. So even if it wasn't happening back then, it's going on now. So we gotta fix it. You know, we can't say he had a great year last year and then
and I think Ferrari's big thing is they just want to always go back to we're Ferrari. We're Ferrari. At a certain point, your name can only take you so long. You haven't won a title in almost a decade now?
Yeah.
I don't even know when the last one was.
Exactly.
9?
I'm like my
For some reason,
is
for
too
some
far
reason,
away. I
07.
need glasses.
For some reason, 07 is what comes to mind. But I mean, it's been a long time since you've been quote unquote relevant. You cannot continue to just fall back on the we're Ferrari. You have to do something. Something needs to change.
Yeah, I mean, a brand can only take you so far, right? Like, eventually the brand is like, great, we're all aware of the brand, but you have to be delivering on those. Yeah, 2007. Yeah, last time Ferrari won the Formula One Drivers' Championship was 2007 with Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah.
They also won the Constructors' Championship that year.
Yeah,
I agree.
2008
Like,
McLaren.
you can say you're Ferrari till you're blue in the face or red, diehard red. But I think that something has to change. Like, Charles clearly got the car dialed in last year. Carlos was able to achieve stuff. Even when the car wasn't great 2 seasons before, Carlos was the only one that won a race that season that Max was so dominant. So it's like Carlos was able to get it figured out. Charles was able to get it figured out. I mean, I'm not blaming Ferrari for like making the decision to bring Lewis over and like let Carlos go, but like things were working better with Carlos. I don't know if y'all saw the little in the pre-race coverage, they did that lie detector thing with Carlos Sainz, and one of the questions they asked him was, do you secretly hope that Ferrari will regret their decision? And he was like, no. And they were like, lie. And it was like one of the only 2 lies that he told. And they also did ask Carlos, like, would you ever see yourself going back to Ferrari? Like, would you ever want to go back? And he was like, yeah, absolutely.
Of course he would.
Like,
why wouldn't
yeah,
he?
I mean,
Anyone
who
would say that,
wouldn't,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But to the point we're talking about, if Ferrari as a brand, as a team, cannot continue to provide opportunities for drivers that are, you know, outside of the brand, like people want results. They don't want to just drive for Ferrari, but to say they drove for Ferrari. Ferrari's not achieving results. And that was like on Red Flags podcast, Gunther was talking with them about like, is it time for Charles to leave? Like, if Charles was to leave the nest and go somewhere, like, has he maximized what he can do and what he can build at Ferrari? But it's like, where would he go, right? It's
Exactly.
kind of
I
like,
don't think. Yeah.
we've
Where do you
seen
go?
Carlos leave, and Carlos, outside of this weekend, do pretty well with Williams. Like, he sees the opportunity there. But like, to me, if I was a driver right now, if there were some shakeups that were to happen at Ferrari, I don't know how much I would want to go to Ferrari other than being a representative of the brand, because right now it doesn't seem like Ferrari can deliver consistent results for two drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the same question I asked last year and the year before that when it came to Lando. It's, Lando, has he reached the peak with McLaren? And within a few races, they switched it around, and now it's the perfect partnership. So Ferrari does have it within them to change this narrative.
Yeah.
And I hope that they can, because they have two very capable drivers, one that's won it all a bunch of times, and one that potentially, I think, has it in him to win it all. So they have to figure this out. They have to look within, and maybe it is one of those things that they have to clean house and start anew. And what better way to do that than with 2026 coming up, where everyone is seemingly on the same plane, everyone is seemingly starting from zero. So it's just a matter of figuring things out.
I just hope that the answer is not always just consistently blaming the team principal. Like, let's be honest, that's not always the answer. And for them to like evaluate, well, I know there were all the rumors, and Christian Horner said that no, that there was no validity to that. But like, if there was any validity to it of like Ferrari considering a change in the leadership at a principal level with it being Fred, well, what? Because we've had a couple of bad races at the start of the season. Look at what Fred delivered last year. That would be, to me, the change would need to be made directly with like the engineering team, not the team principal. Like, to me, Fred is not the issue here, but it's like cutting the head off the snake concept, I guess. I don't know, but I love Papa Fred. I think
he's done
phenomenal.
great.
Yeah, he's done
And so
really
I'm
well.
like, I don't want to hear any Papa Fred hate.
No, but Fred has done great, and I think he's taken this team to a new height. But Fred's not the one building the parts. Fred's not the one doing the math and in the aero conducting these tests. So we have to look at who the engineers are, who's back at the factory building these things to figure things out.
I agree.
We need to
I
send
think
Lewis.
when Lewis wins in Monza, we'll have a whole different conversation, because it'll be like one of the most incredible scenes with Lewis Hamilton on the podium with a sea of red and flares, and it'll just be incredible. So we'll have a whole different conversation in a few weeks.
I love how you're a glass half full kind of guy on this one.
Hey.
I love your belief in it, because, y'all, I'm going to tell you what, like, I was forever going to be a McLaren girl. Like, I was never open to Tifosi, never open to Ferrari. My heart wasn't willing to take it at all. And then we went to Monza, and Carlos Sainz and Charles were battling it out in that final lap of the 2023 season for that podium spot. And the last two turns, Carlos took it, and there was something about seeing a Tifosi on the podium in Monza that I was like screaming. I looked at my husband. I was like, "This is the best day of my life." And he's like, "Hello, what about our wedding?" And I'm like, "This is still the best day of my life." And I've loved Ferrari ever since. Like, it changed me. So I'm gonna send you guys a picture right now. Actually, I can just show you guys because we're on camera now.
I feel like
Here is me. This was the moment I became Tifosi. Like,
oh, absolutely.
and then Joe in his Mercedes hat, being so sad for Lewis. And then that same flag that I'm holding there in that picture then made its way down right there to celebrate Carlos being on the podium as a Tifosi. Like, watching it happen, so good. And if Lewis gets that moment, Josh,
I think that's his moneymaker
I will
right there.
weep. I will weep.
Oh, absolutely. And it's going to be one of those ugly cries, too. Like, not even a nice cry.
Well, last year, the Monza race was the same day as the Lone Star Le Mans out at COTA in Austin here in Texas. And my friend Gary and I went because Joe was out of town on a guy's trip. And I was like, I'm going to this race. Is anybody else going to go? And my buddy Gary that we golf with, he's like, hell, I'll go to a car race. I don't know anything about it, but I'll go. And I'm like, it's a 6-hour race. And I'm like, but we got to get there early. We got to drive and get there early because I have to get there in time to finish the race in Monza. So the whole time we're driving to Austin, it's 2 hours from my house, and we've got it playing over. And, being on a road trip with somebody in a car for 2 hours, most people talk to pass the time. And I'm like,
Don't talk.
don't talk.
I got
Because
stuff going on.
Charles was leading. And so it's like we're pulling up to Coda, like we park, we're like running inside. And I'm assuming, silly me, we got the WEC Lone Star Le Mans. I'm assuming F1 will be on the TVs in the hospitality. Wrong. We get into hospitality and the TVs are like not even on F1. And so I have it going on my phone and it's like I got there just in time to watch those 5 final laps for Charles to win in Monza last season. And Gary, our friend, thought it was so funny because I'm like, screaming, watching this on my phone. Little did I know he was sneakily videoing me having this meltdown, and I cried.
That's funny.
Charles winning in Monza.
Awesome.
I just start crying.
Yeah.
And then I look over and he's giggling and he's just got his little phone filming. And I'm like, but I love that I have that moment now. And so now I would like to have another Ferrari win at Monza and I would like to cry again.
Yeah, it's one of the most iconic podiums in the calendar, and then to have Ferrari on top step and everyone singing the national anthem and going wild. It's such a cool image. It's what it would be to be there with a Ferrari win at Monza. What that would be like.
It's a bucket list item, y'all.
Just legendary.
Yeah. That'd be so cool.
It's one of those.
We got to talk about another team that didn't do well at some point. We got to get to Paul's favorite topic here.
What topic?
Other than Monaco and Lance Stroll.
The only thing you've talked. We got to get to Lance too. The only thing that you've talked about all weekend.
I was hoping we would avoid this.
Your former favorite team.
No, not former. I still have a soft spot for them.
You still talk a whole lot of trash about.
I talk a lot of trash. You're gonna learn that about me. I talk a lot of trash anyway. But let's get into it. Come on.
Go ahead. Go on your rant.
No. Talk about it.
No,
talk
I
about
don't
it.
Talk about it.
What the hell is happening at Mercedes? Did we jinx it by being like the dark horse? The dark horse.
Yeah,
they're no longer a dark horse. They're here. They're competing, and then it was like
they're gone.
To me, the shocking part is they've been so reliable for so many years that now what is going on? And I'm not going to say the 2 words because Meredith is over there just punking me out. No, but that's to me the shocking part is especially, they've been so reliable for so long.
For those that don't know what the 2 words are that Paul is referring to, we're starting a new drinking game in our group chat because all weekend Paul was on one. The Mercedes power unit. Talking about Mercedes power unit. Oh, well, if that team got the Mercedes power unit. So we get it.
I hate it here.
So it is now a drinking game every time
I'm not going to say it.
Talks about the Mercedes power unit.
But I mean, in reality, I don't know what's going on with that team. They clearly haven't figured anything out. And, are they as reliable as they once were? Should McLaren be worried because they are a customer team?
Yes, because you've had another customer team as early as last week. We had Fernando Alonso, unfortunately, unlucky Fernando, have a similar power unit failure. And here's another one this weekend with Kimi, which kind of set off the entire safety car issue. So, if anyone is to blame, it's actually Kimi Antonelli for all of this. Give him a black flag, disqualify him just straight right off because it's his fault. No, I'm kidding because I like Kimi.
I was so bummed for Kimi.
He's like the little kid that you just root for just because he's just young and
even
precious.
throughout the whole race. He was up in that top 10 the whole race, and then I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm looking at this view of him being off in the gravel, and I'm like, I had no idea what happened, or I was like, did he get bumped? What's going on? And then they were like, no, it was actually his car. This wasn't him. He didn't do this. This was a car issue. And I was like, oh, I just wanted him to have redemption after what happened over at Emilia Romagna. I needed Kimi to just be back on the up and up, and then not that it's apples and oranges, but Kimi and Isaac to me are the ones that we kind of keep talking about with the strongest rookie, right? And then it's what's happening with the car is putting Kimi at a bad position for that, because I think Kimi's a very talented driver, but Isaac has been consistently delivering. And if Isaac's car is not having issues like Kimi is, then I think we're going to continue to see the trajectory of Isaac as the top rookie emerging. And then I think if Mercedes doesn't get something figured out with that car for George and Kimi, I think unfortunately the rest of Kimi's season could take a turn.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I completely agree with that.
Like it though.
No, it's terrible. I want Kimi to do well. I rate him pretty highly.
Yeah, even George. I'm not the biggest Mercedes fan. Like, I mean, but I appreciate for them for the team they are, the talent they have, for how hard George has worked, going all the way from being in Williams up to Mercedes and what he's done, him stepping into that lead role this year. I want to see them do well, and they started off the season so strong. So it does bum me out a little bit to see these last few races have felt like a little bit of a step backwards. I'd like to see them get back on the trajectory to get back up there and competing.
Yeah, with such a good beginning to their season, a very strong start and quite a few podiums and taking a good points haul. Both of the drivers looking very good. The last thing we want to do now is to worry about reliability issues with Mercedes, especially with how many teams that they do supply.
Right.
You hope, including the constructor, the front running and constructor right now, McLaren. I would like to see. For any part of the sport, I would rather see the results strictly be due to driving and the actual races themselves, not mechanical issues. I want to see the drivers get a chance.
Right.
If they can make it work, great. But I don't want to see it be a reliability issue that ends the hopes and dreams of a driver.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Especially at a safety point, like. We're just lucky Kimmy, Kimmy's car stopped when it did, and that he didn't go full send and have a big accident.
Yep. And I know the power unit's kind of the focus right now but electronically last week we had George
power unit. Drink.
Yeah, right, there you go. But George died in the tunnel, electronic issue. So it's not just I'm not gonna say the words. It's not just is it something going on with their R&D or is production issue, and how many teams could be potentially affected by this? So it's maybe tip of the iceberg, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. But let me ask this question. So is this Oscar's title to lose now, or do we still think Lando can put up a fight?
I think it's still plenty of time. I think Oscar looks the strongest right now, but there's definitely plenty of races left to close the gap. It's a 10-point gap. It's one race.
Yeah.
All it takes
I
is
also
Oscar.
think that, looking at Q3 of qualifying, like during qualifying, there was a lap where Oscar gave Lando the drag to get that time, and then tables turned the next time. Lando gave Oscar a little bit of drag to get across that line. So I think to me, Oscar has really, really strong starts. And to me, if it would have been reversed and it would have been Lando in first, and if he would have had a good start, I do think we could have seen Lando take the victory with this one. So I think the qualifying matters a lot in how they set that grid and how each of them does in qualifying. But I still think there's so many races ahead, and I think it will be Lando and Oscar battling it out for the rest of the season for who's going to win this title. But I think either of them could take it. I think that Lando's been improving on his starts a lot. I think that Oscar's had stronger, more consistent qualifying, in my opinion, but then Lando continues to deliver in the races. So if Lando could really work on solidifying that qualifying a little bit more and his starts could be more consistent, then I think he would even be up there a little bit further in terms of that competition.
And I think that's the thing. I think Lando's starts is what causes him the issue is, he lost that spot to Max yesterday, and it just from there, he puts himself in a hole that's incredibly hard for him to get out of.
Yep. I did appreciate all the memes on all the social medias of when it was like a 1-2 lockout for McLaren. Everyone was going right back to 2016, Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton. The carnage that everyone was kind of like alluding to, like, oh my gosh, look, we're gonna get a turn 4 incident or whatever. I did appreciate
think we were gonna have a lap 1 crash.
Yeah. I thought they were
really
going to get close.
I
thought they were going to really get racy, but I mean, Lando just cannot get a good start going. He just can't.
No.
I don't know what. That killed him last season. It's killing him this season. If he wants to get these points back and really make this a good title fight, I think the race starts is where he's winning and losing these races right now.
And I said it all of last year. I think it's between the ears that's a problem. I think he gets in his head and makes little mental mistakes that just cost him victories, and we've seen it from.
I even think that it's about your communication with your team.
Yes,
right before Oscar started, he asked for feedback and made that micro adjustment that led to him having. He said, "Hey, what did I do in previous laps that gave me a stronger he made that micro adjustment, and boom, that's what literally in the 5 minutes before the race started, he was asking for feedback on that, and
it was a clutch issue.
It was a clutch, yeah. It's
yes,
exactly what it was.
Because Nico was talking about it. It was just little microscopic changes within the clutch and how to release it.
See,
And
but I think that's why Oscar does well with it, because it's like, to Oscar, it's what's the technical change I need to make to immediately make that shift. Whereas maybe before, because there is this whole, no, Lando can't start, Lando has bad starts, maybe it is more in his head rather than what do I technically need to change right now. Oscar is focusing on what is the action I need to take, whereas Lando is maybe a little bit more intrinsic on it, of like just thinking about like, what is it in my head that, what doubts do I have or whatever, I don't know. But I like that Oscar has like a tactical approach to it.
Oscar's just a robot. He's just so squared away. I don't know. He's very Kimi Räikkönen. God, he reminds me of that Iceman, man. He's just
even kill. I don't see too much emotion from him.
There's no emotion.
It's incredible.
I know we've talked about it before, but all the memes that are like, Oscar when he wins a race, Oscar when he loses a race, and they're like the exact same picture. I'm like, that is so real.
Also, can we talk about that really beautiful moment? He signed the champagne bottle over to his sister.
Which the only sister I'd seen before was Hattie. I didn't realize he had like 3 sisters. I had no idea who that was. And I was like...
Yeah, I know. I wish they would have thrown up like a little banner or something that said like... Because they usually do. I mean, especially in pre-race stuff, they tell you like, who is this celebrity? Who is this person we got the camera on? But they never did
briefly. I saw it one. They did briefly.
Okay.
I missed it because I was like, I don't know who this is. And
I was like, is that his girlfriend or who is this?
Well, no, I knew it wasn't. And like, my best friend recently got into F1, and she was like, is that his sister? And the only sister I'd seen was Hattie. And I was like, no, that's not Hattie. And she was like, well, I know that's not his girlfriend. I was like, no, it's definitely not his girlfriend. She was like, is this Oscar's mistress? I'm like, I doubt they'd be zooming in on Oscar's mistress, but it turns out it's one of his other sisters. And then my best friend made the joke, well, no wonder Oscar is the way he is. He grew up in a house of women and never got to get a word in. And I thought that was so spot on.
That's funny.
Also, let's kind of get into it. What's going on with Williams?
No, I don't want to talk about it.
We're not going to talk about it?
Liam Lawson got into Williams several times.
Dennis the Menace of F1.
Can we go one weekend without him being a dick?
Liam is the new Daniel Kvyat. He's just the torpedo.
It makes me so mad because, like Sainz, awful qualifying. Hated that for him. But Albon, consistent, up there, gonna be fighting for a chance for the points again. And then here comes Liam. Here he is, ready to ruin days.
I've got a question. Is this just how Liam races? Is he just dirty, or is this a issue of skill where he's just not necessarily aware of his full car and the width of it and how close he can get? Because that seems to be a lot of the issues. Is he's just always a little bit too close.
But
is he doing it on purpose? That's my question, really.
Did we have this issue when he took over Danny Rick's spot when he had that surgery? Because I don't remember him being this dirty when his name really skyrocketed to being a great driver. So I think
it really started last year when he was given like the 6 races to impress, right? Because he started getting into it with Checo, and then it was Alonso.
When he messed with my boy Checo. We're still not over that.
He got too big for his britches. I mean, it's very clear in season 7 of Drive to Survive, the quotes where he consistently talks about, it's really frustrating to be sitting on the sidelines knowing I could be doing a better job than both of these drivers, and he talks about it all along, and then he gets the seat. Well, we know how that turned out. And we know that Isaac, his teammate, is delivering consistently in the V-Carb, more consistently than it was like, I saw one meme today that was like Isaac Hadjar has scored more points in the last 2 races than the Red Bull team combined in the last 2 races, like 14 points compared to Isaac's 16. So it's not the car, it's him. I think that Red Bull made a grave mistake pulling Liam up to put him in that second Red Bull seat. So, Josh, I agree with you. Like, is this like skill or will? And I think it is a little bit of both. I think he got too big for his britches, and I think like he felt like he could drive like Max. Like, I think he felt like he could drive with his elbows out like Max. But I do think if they would have left him at V-Carb this year and given him another year with Laurent to develop,
he could have settled in a little bit.
I think he really would have settled in. So to me, I do think this is where team leadership makes a difference. And Red Bull is historic for putting people in that second seat that are not ready. And I think in the long term, drivers would probably be benefited better in their career longevity if they stayed at that V-carb team more time to actually develop and get used to the pressure, get used to the car, learn the skill, get time in the other seat if possible, testing and stuff like that, and then make the move when they're ready, because I think they just put him in the seat too soon. And I think had he had
And
another year at V-carb, it would have been better.
That echoes exactly what Laurent has said over several different interviews, and he very much views his team as like a training ground for younger drivers, and which is, Red Bull, it's a junior team. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And he understands that completely, which is fine. Not a problem with that at all. But when you start playing these games and moving guys prematurely and not giving them the chance to really develop under the junior leadership in the program, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of the program.
Which is why
you had a great chance at it, but. What's going on with him now? So go ahead, Paul.
Which is why we need to just leave Isaac with the V car. And
yes.
The conversation about promoting him to Red Bull. Nope.
No.
Which
much
they're
like,
going to do it. They're gonna do it.
They're so stupid. They're going to. They're gonna ruin the kid.
Yeah.
I had this conversation this weekend. I was like, I think what's going to happen is they're going to put Isaac in that second Red Bull seat for next year. I think they'll leave him where he is for this year because things are going so well. I really do. I think they're going to say stay where you are. I don't think they'll do a silly season summer swap. I hope they don't. That would be ridiculous. But what are they going to do? They're going to pull Isaac up. What do you think Yuki's going to want to move back down? No. So Yuki will leave. He'll go find another team, or he'll be a reserve driver somewhere. What are we going to do? Pull up Arvid or Jack from F2?
Yes.
And put another person in a seat. It's like Arvid just got pulled up from F3 to F2, and granted, he just won a race this weekend, and that's amazing, and I'm super excited for him. Like, let's not put him in a spot where we're like give him 2 years in F2. It just makes me nervous that it's like, again, in the long scheme of things, are we putting drivers in seats before they're actually ready, which ultimately could end their career in F1, like we saw with Nick DeVries.
Yeah, so that's absolutely what we're doing, and it's purely just panic from Red Bull.
Yeah.
They're panicking because they can't. The car is just untenable, right? It just is not. Which may be just an issue for this year alone, and maybe they'll look at it as going, okay, well, you know what, this car sucks, but 26 is just around the corner. The whole car is going to change anyway, so we're just going to leave it as it is, and I hope they do for the Yuki's sake. I hope Yuki gets a chance at yes.
Pierre, Danny Rick, Checo, Alex.
Sure, but the car's done.
At what point do you blame the drivers?
You don't. You solely blame the car at this point. At this point now, where we've had so many different drivers and driving styles, you cannot blame the drivers. You blame the car. And
absolutely.
Now at this point, you say this car sucks, so we're gonna that is what it is until 2026, and then when we get there, then we can figure this out instead of burning several junior careers. Like we've destroyed careers over this at this point, and it's
can I tell y'all that watching what's happening to Lewis Hamilton is making me feel like what we watched happen to Danny Rick.
Yep.
Like it genuinely is, and I hope it turns around. For the love of God, Ferrari and Lewis, like please turn that around, because watching Danny go out that way and feeling that way about his career, like that Singapore interview, I will cry on the spot thinking about it. Yeah. Because like watching Lewis's self-confidence tank and watching how he's interacting in the media right now about his time with Ferrari, it's like watching what happened to Danny being back in the V-carb and like not being able to turn it around. And it's like, it's tough.
Yeah. 100%.
Bringing up some F1 trauma.
Either way, if this is truly, Lewis is getting old, and if he makes the decision to step away or whatever the case may be, my hope would be that they do it in the right way, unlike what V-carb did with Danny. I hope that obviously Lewis is a little different than Daniel Ricciardo being a 7-time world champion. Yeah, it's a completely different
100%.
thing. But Daniel was so beloved in the community, and the fans, had such a
he deserved better.
He deserved a lot better. Right, he didn't maybe not deserve that world champion send off that you may have seen from that Vettel got, and that I think Alonso and Lewis should get, but he deserved a lot more than he got. And I hope that when we get to that point, that Lewis gets a year-long send off where every track gives him a gift, and we get to this whole thing, because he's going to be one of the best of the sport that we'll ever see.
Yeah.
So
And
I don't
Meredith
think
is gonna
that way.
ugly cry every race
Ugly cry.
next
It's
that
a
year.
good thing that
Yeah.
I work for a paper company because like I'm just gonna have like samples and samples of facial tissue sent to my house so I can just put the box right under my eyes.
Absolutely. All right, so let's put our conspiracy hats on. Is there more
Oh.
to it with the land stuff than what
I'm
meets
excited.
the eye?
Absolutely.
Is
So
this is Daddy Stroll putting his sound down gently?
So there's
You-
two parts to this, I think.
Yeah.
The first
Yeah,
part
yeah.
is what people may not have heard and that has not been officially confirmed, but like, kind of is through back channels. After Q2's knockout, Lance Stroll was
I saw that.
extremely upset.
I read about it this morning.
Yes, so he was extremely upset, and a rumor is broke a whole bunch of stuff. Yelled
He
at
had a
everybody.
hissy fit.
He did. He had a temper tantrum.
You're gonna try to tell me that the injury to his
No.
hand
No,
is
No.
unrelated?
no, it's completely
Unrelated. We know he's had issues in the past in the garage with dealing with his anger.
Yes.
Maybe not issues, not multiple, maybe, but we know
No,
of at
he-
least one incident
yes.
before where he got upset and he got physical with a staff member.
with his own physio,
Yes.
his own guy.
So
that
it's
was-
like we know.
So now
you
the
cannot
question is-
convince me that injury is unrelated.
100% related, and I'm sure he damaged whatever repair was done because he had a pretty hasty comeback last season, and I don't think he was fully healed up from that procedure. So obviously he's damaged it at some way. So now the question is, where do you go from here? Is this your out? Is this the way that you can kind of step him away without kind of pulling him away? You allow him the grace of saying like, you know what, this injury has nagged for 2 years now and is really causing me issues and I just can't compete at this level. Is that your out? Now you can kind of let him step away with some dignity as opposed to just getting removed by your own dad. So I don't know. I think this is kind of two-part. Like, is this just a hissy fit gone wrong and he's going to be back in 2 weeks and be fine? Or is this kind of the beginning of the end? So I don't know. This is where the rubber meets the road. I think Austin Martin's got to be looking for an out for Lance. They got to be. He's just not.
I think this was the soft launch
Right.
of the seat becoming vacant for them to pursue Max.
No.
Yep.
Oh,
I'm saying
whoa.
it. That's my hot
We're
take.
going that far.
This is the opening of that seat to create the vacancy, to plant the seed that there would potentially be an opening at 26 in Aston Martin. We know Newey's already there. We know Lawrence has said that he would want Max. So to me, this is where this was the soft launch of the campaign to get Max to Aston Martin for 2026.
I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but
I think your tinfoil hat might be a little too tight. I don't
I
know.
definitely think this is Daddy Stroll trying to get his son out of Formula One the most gentle way possible without actually firing his own son.
He's like a Bond villain. No part about Lawrence Stroll gives me soft daddy,
No.
let me let you down gentle vibes. To me, Lawrence would just be like, you're out.
I don't know.
He
It's
sh-
his
he-
son. I think he'd protect his own in a way.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with Josh. He would protect his son because if he was going to fire him, I would have fired him a year ago, 2 years ago.
Like 5 years ago. What do
if this is a sport of results, short of it constantly raining because he seems to somehow do decent in rain, I would have fired him a long time ago. I think this is him protecting his Daddy Stroll protecting his son.
You don't think that if it came down to it, it's like at the end of the day, this is a business, and he has other people he has to be accountable for with a bottom line. You don't think that at some point he's going to go, you know what, that's it, we're done, cut the losses here. Here's the way we'll spin it in the media, and we've got to figure out something different moving forward. Like,
Yeah,
this
I
is
agree
the
with
out,
that,
this is the bottom
that
line,
there would have to be a
and
spin.
we'll spin it this way in the media, but he out.
Which is what he's doing
Yeah,
now.
which is
Yeah,
this.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
this does not give.
Fair.
This does not give. I don't know. Like, to me, that's what's happening. Lawrence may have made the decision that it is Lance's time to go, and this is the story that is gonna soft open that, and that'll be how he goes out, and he's gonna let that be the public facing story, and then we'll just see where it goes. I think it will go to them vying for Max.
Hey, speaking of that, I saw a rumor that Zach Brown made a phone call to Red Bull. Did you see that?
Are you talking about? Wait, like
I
outside.
saw
No, that's
no.
Ferrari and Horner.
I
Like,
saw a rumor, and I have to share it to you guys later, that Zach Brown made a phone call to a certain Red Bull driver, and Christian Horner said, "Well, if I guess you're not happy with your two current drivers, I'll have to look it up and send it to you guys." I found that
yeah, I
interesting.
definitely I didn't see that.
Who
I'd
was he
love to see that.
contacting? What
I
driver?
think we know the answer to that question.
I mean, it's not Max.
I don't think he's calling Yuki.
I don't think he's calling Max either.
I'll look for it and I'll send it to
Yeah,
you guys.
look for it and send it because I'd be interested. But I also am like the timing of it this weekend. I was like, Zach was in Detroit for the IndyCar race with the McLaren teams there. So I'm like, what's he doing? Stepping away, being like, sorry, Pato, sorry, Christian. Like, I gotta go take this phone call real quick. It's Max. You guys understand, you know?
I don't think they could afford Max. I don't think they want him. I think that's completely outside.
I could see it, though.
I could see them going after Yuki.
Okay. Since I just said IndyCar, maybe remember I had homework from last week. We talked about Alex Palou and winning the Indy 500. I don't know if y'all got to watch any of the Detroit GP yesterday from IndyCar. It was an amazing race in the last 10 laps, just like F1. But last week we were talking about Alex Palou being like an absolute generational talent like Max Verstappen is. And we were like, well, why the hell isn't Alex Palou in F1? Like, why are we not talking about him for the Cadillac F1 seat? And I didn't think he had a super license. Turns out he does. So that was my homework, was to look it up. Alex Palou does have a super license, and he actually has driven in some F1 practice sessions back in like 2022. I guess I somehow missed all that because he was vocal and spoke up about how he thinks that it should be more accessible to get the super license and stuff, because Pato didn't have one at the time and he did. And he was just saying, like, I have enough points to be eligible in Formula One, but other drivers don't. And we have to make it easier for people to get those super license points to be eligible in other racing series. So I thought that was interesting. But unfortunately for Alex Palou, he did not have a good race yesterday. He crashed and did not finish the race. So it was a bummer, but Kyle Kirkwood, an Andretti boy, won, and that was exciting. So just like F1 yesterday, if you didn't watch it, go watch the last 10 laps of the IndyCar race. It is a street circuit, but unlike Monaco, very exciting. There were so many overtakes in the last 10 laps of IndyCar yesterday that I was like, I had to get up and like walk around. I was like that stressed because so many people were overtaking and using their push to pass in those like last 10 laps. It was mayhem.
Well, I saw the Indy Next series was complete carnage at the first lap.
Well, and there's
half
a long
the grid just
conversation
disappeared
about Detroit like being where it is in the calendar for that reason. They all just came off the Indy 500. They came off a very busy schedule in May, but yet you're going to put one of the more exciting tracks that's a street track that is really dangerous right after the Indy 500 for all these drivers, even the Indy Next. It's like, it was stressful.
Very much so. But let's get into it. Meredith, the predictions, the point system. I know I didn't have a very good weekend, but go on. Tell us what happened.
Okay, so if you guys did not listen last week, Paul led off with the predictions because he was still in the lead. The scoreboard as of the end of last week's episode was 4 points for Paul, 3 points for Josh, 3 points for me. Paul predicted our podium of Max, Charles, and Lewis, with his shocker prediction being Williams double points. Josh predicted Max, Lando, Charles, and then V-Carb double points for his shocker prediction. I predicted Lando, Oscar, Max, and my shocker prediction being Isaac scoring better than Sainz in the Grand Prix. So our Spain total points, I'm so happy to report, Paul. That goose egg for you. 2 weeks in a row with a goose egg.
What's happening over there, bud?
I hate that for you. But we do have a new leader. Do you need to respond?
No.
We do have a new leader. Josh scored 2 points in Spain this weekend. So he correctly predicted Lando and Charles. So he gets 2 points for his podium, which brings him to 5 points. So he is our new leader. I got 1 point. My podium was just a little discombobulated there, but I did get my shocker prediction. So I got a point. So Paul, we are tied with 4 and 4, but Josh just took the lead with 5 points. So super exciting, riveting, quite the change up from your, illustrious predictions the first couple of races we did.
I'm just letting you guys catch up, that's all.
I needed it. I needed it bad.
Oh boy. Yeah, not a good. I'm not maintaining really well. Because it was just
You need
terrible.
this break. You just need this break. You need a weekend off.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Much
a tough,
like
tough triple header.
It was.
Much like the Ferrari engineers, I need a break. All right, so we will be back next week, talk about Canada and also give our predictions about it. But as we kind of wrap it up for today, Josh, any last final thoughts?
Yeah, Meredith, you want to talk about 24 Le Mans this weekend?
No, let's talk about that next week. So,
Okay.
because it's the same weekend as the Canada race, so we can talk about it.
Okay.
We can talk about it next week. But
Gotcha.
I am very excited. It'll be a good one. So next week, kind of just like we do with Canada, where we'll talk about, you can give us all your track knowledge and we can kind of give our predictions. I'll talk a little bit about the 24 hours of Le Mans, and we can kind of do a little bit of that for anybody who's never dabbled in endurance racing. It is like the iconic race. Most call it the pinnacle of motorsport, the pinnacle of racing. So
Yeah.
I'll give a little bit of background on it and kind of share some knowledge for anybody who wants to dabble in that on the weekend of the Canadian Grand Prix as well.
Perfect. We look forward to it. I'm slowly getting into it. It's still a little confusing, but I look forward to learning more about it from Meredith.
I love a homework assignment. Now I think,
Done.
the endurance racing, the one thing I will say is I don't know if y'all saw the updates that Max enacted the clause in his contract where he can now compete in other racing series, including endurance racing. So I did think that would be really cool to see open up the potential for next year if he's going to compete in something if it doesn't have a conflicting calendar schedule.
I definitely see him moving more towards other disciplines.
Yeah.
Not necessarily he's bored with F1, but I definitely think he wants to try something else.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few disciplines that he'd be interested in trying. I know that endurance racing is well up there, but even going as far as doing some races at the Nürburgring or something like that. So GT3 stuff, we'll see.
Absolutely. All right. Any last final thoughts, Meredith?
No, I'm excited for a little recharge this weekend. I'm not going to lie, with that triple header, it was a lot, but it was also a big heavy IndyCar and NASCAR month. So this weekend is going to take it a little easier. Not a ton of racing on there's like MotoGP on this weekend, which I'll watch because it's super exciting, and NASCAR again, but not like all weekend being committed to it. So I am looking forward to being outside in the sun, getting some golf and, just taking a little bit of a racing reset, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode and have a great rest of your week. We will be back with you guys next week to talk everything Montreal and give our predictions. And hopefully I do a little bit better than a big old goose egg. So
Whatever.
With that, I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Take care, everyone.
See you guys.